Upcoming survival horror Greyhill Incident, the first game from new developer Refugium Games, is slated for release this summer. Despite the launch of this sci-fi-tinged title being mere months away, information is a little thin on the ground. So I've done some digging to shed some light on this intriguing title. Firstly, just what is Greyhill Incident? Well, transplant yourself to a small town anywhere USA with rural farmland, picket fences, and cornfields, and plonk a hulking great spaceship in the middle, and you're partway there. In fact, Greyhill Incident leans on its relatable setting by design, inducing an uncanny eeriness in the player. Its locales are overtly familiar, as if posing the question, what if aliens crash-landed in your backyard? It's not just the setting you've seen before. The alien's appearance treads a well-trodden trope too, for they're the distinctive gray type. Refugium Games have explicitly stated that they're drawing influence from vintage sci-fi plus real-life accounts of extraterrestrial encounters for the design of their aliens. So, whilst I'm sure this brand of alien won't be scary to some, I love the fact that the game is wearing its inspiration so boldly. The fact the game is set in 1992 is no coincidence either, as the early 90s was saturated with aliens on TV and in mainstream pop culture. After decades of silence from global governments on purported UFO sightings and abductions, it was mainstream media that grew to shape public perception of aliens. Think Fire in the Sky or The X-Files for confirmation of the X-Files' influence on Greyhill Incident. Look closely in some of the interior scenes in the reveal trailer and you'll see Fox Mulder's iconic I Want to Believe poster. The early 90s was rife with TV shows and movies that provoked this perception, but they had a helping hand from conspiracy theorists as well. Remember, belief in conspiracy theory is largely born out of mistrust. Mistrust of governments leading to accusations of cover-up, that sort of thing. The 1980s leading into the early 90s was a period of deep mistrust. We're seeing hints of this acted out in Greyhill Incident's footage, especially in the character wearing a tinfoil hat. Of course, the paranoia driving people to desperate measures is real, even if it's a tinfoil hat's effectiveness remains unproven. But really, the tinfoil hat is a symbol of ridicule co-opted by those who don't prescribe to conspiracy theory to belittle those that do. What I'm getting at, in terms of Greyhill Incident, is I'm wondering if these complex themes of social paranoia and conspiracy will play a large part in the game's narrative. It'd be interesting to me if the small rural community beset by alien invasion presents a stark cross-section of society, a microcosm of opinion and actions, manifesting in ways that require the player to balance investigating the impending threat with managing the well-being of the wider community and their response. I hope it does. After all, great sci-fi often mirrors public anxiety. Should Greyhill Incident lean on themes that are contemporary to the 90s? Then, for me, it'd be bringing emotional heft to a narrative which, on face value at least, looks well-trodden. On to gameplay. And what can we expect? Well, Greyhill Incident looks to be borrowing pre-established cues from survival horror. Flashlight as a sole light source? Check. Limited weaponry and resources? Check. Creepy, staticky noise coming through the walkie-talkie? Double check. It's interesting that Refugium Games have mentioned video games as providing influence in Greyhill Incident's creation on the game's Steam page description. I've sifted through Reddit though, and found they've cited Resident Evil 8 as key influence in a comment to another user. The influence of Resident Evil 8 especially makes sense to me. The game's deft use of lighting, with its partial illumination frequently tricking the eyes being an important highlight in creating immersive tension. Greyhill Incident also uses light in its world building, and as a primary indicator of nefarious alien activity. The sickly green neon of the spaceship's landing light being an obvious mention, but the bright white rising out of the black of the shed, with a dog barking out front, that's particularly chilling. It's horror that is simultaneously signposted yet unseen that really gets the shackles up. And it looks to me that Greyhill Incident is promising a lot in this regard. I say this with obvious exception of the face-to-face Grey encounter in the gameplay footage. Perhaps it would have been more effective to only see shadows or a spindly finger worming through the closet door, rather than a full alien face at this stage. I can't help but think seeing an alien close up in the trailer dampens the mystique. Everything else about the game's unnerving atmosphere, for me though, is spot on. There are subtle hints of more otherworldlies going on that the player can utilize in-game in the footage we've seen so far too. What I'm talking about, of course, is the cat, with its triangular light patterns on its head, its face illuminating a chalkboard indecipherable with mathematical equations. Just what is this cat? One thing I know it isn't is it's not an alien cat. It's not a weapon, as confirmed in another Reddit comment by Refugium. They're keeping the true nature of the cat/torch close to their chest though, so we'll have to wait and see just what's actually going on. So overall, visually and graphically, I'm really liking what I'm seeing. The interior screenshots especially are ticking a lot of boxes. Maybe growing up in the 90s has baked nostalgia for this era into my conscious mind, but there's something altogether inviting about these living room spaces. Bookshelves, cable TV, FM radio, and even the dining room furniture, all circling back to a feeling of relatability, which I mentioned at this feature's outset. Of course, you don't need to have grown up in the 90s to relate to the interior of a house, but the home undeniably symbolizes sanctuary. It's your haven. If it isn't all that safe inside from the extraterrestrial threat lurking outside, and when there's nowhere else to run, well, that to me is unquestionably scary. It becomes a game of interstellar hide and seek in places you've lived in. It's not a space station which you have no tangible frame of reference. It's your front room. I hope the game delivers on this front too. A handful of footnotes to round off this feature. Contrary to commenters on YouTube, Greyhill Incident is not an open world game. The sound design isn't final yet, so if you're off-put by the aliens' heavy footsteps or the synthesizer swirl of the spaceship's engine, then fear not, as there's still time for adding finesse. One thing to mention is Refugium Games have stated that within the last 2 weeks, that they're considering delaying the game's release until winter 2022, just to make sure that the experience they're presenting is top-notch on release. The last one is speculation and by no means confirmed by the developer, but if they choose delaying to add polish, then I'd support that decision. For the moment, Greyhill Incident is wishlistable on Steam, only with no intention of an early access period. Consoles could follow, but again, nothing I've seen confirms this. It's just pure speculation. Whilst humanoid grey aliens are commonplace in TV and movies to the point of cliché, it's a trope not too often explored in video games. Couple this with the mysterious nature of the aliens' visit, what their intentions are with your rural community, and your objective to avoid abduction, then it looks like we've got something truly unique on our hands. Did you know that we at GamingBolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.